The Jacksonville Jumbo Shrimp are back home tonight after a very successful road trip, winning 9 of their last 12 on that road trip. Hey, let's now welcome in Jacksonville Jumbo Shrimp broadcaster Scott Kornberg. Scott, the Jumbo Shrimp are hot coming back home tonight.
Absolutely. Well, Andrew, thanks for having me on. Obviously, a really successful road trip, as you just said, 9-3. And it's really interesting because this team started off really, really hot offensively. They've tapered a little bit there, still hitting for a lot of power. But pitching-wise, their bullpen just had a stretch of 21 consecutive scoreless innings. And before Sunday's game, 1 run allowed in 25 innings, which works out to about a 0.3 ERA. So they have been playing really, really well. And it's going to be exciting because Durham is a very, very talented team. And certainly one that Jacksonville played very evenly, but took the series in Durham a couple weeks ago with 4 out of 6 in terms of the wins. And Durham comes in here today, and they're just a game out of first place. Jacksonville holds a half-game lead over Nashville, so obviously a long way to go in the season. But those 3 teams seem to be kind of separating themselves in the early going in that Southeast Division.
Jacksonville starting out 13-5. Scott, you mentioned some of it, but my question would be, why has this team performed so well here in the early going?
Well, I had to give a lot of credit to manager Al Padrique and pitching coach Jeremy Powell. They've had 10 different starting pitchers in 18 games, and we'll see how that shakes out. But that is a lot of starting pitchers, and there's been guys coming and going. And our pitching staff, simply because the Marlins are a little bit shorthanded, and so guys like Cody Poteet and Luis Madero and Braxton Garrett are getting called up and having to go up to Miami on a short notice, and those guys just aren't missing a beat. And so I have to really, in particular, give them a lot of credit because despite all the moving parts, despite guys spot starting, they have built a really, really good pitching staff that ranks in the top 5 in the league in pretty much every single pitching category. Offensively, they have Sixto Sanchez. He's batting .469. He has an on-base percentage of .500. He has an OPS of over 1,400. He ranks first or second in the league in every single category. And he's got more multi-hit games than he has games with 1 hit and 0 hits combined. He's just a wrecking ball in the middle of the order, and he's been just doing enough with guys getting on base in front of him that some of the guys who had hot starts have maybe gone through a little bit of a slump, and those things will obviously ebb and flow, but he just hasn't. And it's weird seeing his batting average below 500 because that's just how good he's been. And he's even hitting pitches in his hands out for home runs. It's not like he's just getting meatballs down the middle all the time. He's really doing a lot with a lot of really good pitches. And opponents are just kind of sitting on the mound like, I don't know how to get this guy out right now.
7 home runs. He's driven in 20 to this point in the season, which is pretty crazy. Now almost 4 weeks into the season. I know we're getting to this point of the year, nearly June. Is there any potential that the Marlins give you guys a call and say, we need to bring this guy up?
I'm curious about that because they've had a lot of injuries in their outfield, and Starling Marte is actually going to start on a rehab assignment today in Jacksonville. He's obviously an all-star caliber outfielder for Miami. So you would have thought that, maybe somebody like Sanchez, who had a little bit of a cup of coffee last year, didn't really go that great in Miami, would have, okay, I have to work on X, Y, and Z. And it certainly seems like he's been successful with any kind of adjustments he wanted to make going into this season. He's also a very talented guy, former top 100 prospect who the Marlins had traded for. You would have thought that maybe the time would have come to have him come up. So with Marte presumably being in Jacksonville not that long, if all goes well, all of a sudden maybe that hole in the outfield closes up and there's no spot for him. But, I would think that for him, he's certainly making his case pretty loudly, right? If you're batting around 500 over a 3-week span, and we'll see what he does in this series against Durham, which is his former team. So I think he particularly likes hitting against Tampa Bay just because of the fact that they traded him. We'll see. But you would have thought almost like, the way he started the year and some of the injuries in the Marlins outfield would have opened that up. But now's not the time. And I think certainly for him, the best way he can make that case is to just keep doing what he's doing. And, again, his just approach to the plate is fantastic. And he's not just doing it in the field. He's had, I think, 2 or 3 plays in which he's thrown out runners on the bases this year already. So he's done a really, really nice job in the defensive facet of the game as well. So I would only think it's a matter of time for him, and maybe it's the next Marlins injury, but they're also competing. And, if he keeps doing this, they might look at their team and say, our offense maybe could use a jolt, because at times it can in the major leagues. And maybe this is our way to get an internal improvement and see what he can do. But I would only think it's a matter of time if he keeps doing this.
Starling Marte, one of the better all-around players in Major League Baseball. How long do you expect to have him in Jacksonville?
Should be pretty short. He said yesterday in talking with the Miami media that he really needs 2 days. So we'll see if the Marlins agree. But obviously he'll start tonight, and if all goes well, start tomorrow. And in theory, this should be a quicker one. Jumbo Shrimp had Jorge Alfaro rehab with them, and that was like a week and a half rehab assignment. Part of it was he tweaked something the first time out there. Jazz Chisholm was still a little bit longer as well. But those guys were dealing with soft tissue injuries. And for Marte, it's a fractured rib. So in theory, if it's healed, 2 games, I think in his estimation, should be enough to get his timing back to go back up to the big leagues. And the Jumbo Shrimp also have Eleazar Hernandez, who actually won Pitcher of the Week as a rehab guy. He's looked fantastic, and he should make at least one more start this week and maybe next week when they hit back on the road to Gwinnett again. So they've got 4 rehab guys in the first 4 weeks of the season. Chisholm and Alfaro are back. Hernandez just got moved to the 60-day IL, so he can't go back to Miami until early June. So he'll be here presumably until then. And then obviously for Marte, he thinks it's a short rehab stint.
I saw some encouraging news on Sixto Sanchez. Looks like he's going to throw a bullpen, and that's some encouraging signs.
Absolutely. And, the Marlins are oddly enough for an organization that has a lot of pitching. They just got crushed with injuries. And they obviously figured that Sanchez would be there to start the season, and he wasn't. They probably figured that Edward Cabrera and George Guzman and a lot of these other guys that are young up-and-comers were going to be there to bolster their rotation and bullpen, and all those guys are dealing with injuries. So Sanchez is the first to make his way, or at least start to make his way back to the major leagues, and presumably would rehab in Jacksonville on his way to doing so. So yeah, starting to throw a little bit. I've read that in June he'll start to ramp it up a little bit more and start a rehab assignment. So Jacksonville fans probably only at least 2 or 3 weeks away or so from seeing him back, hopefully for a short stint before he goes to the major leagues again. But yeah, he's definitely someone on the mend. But the nice thing is it's opened up the door for Cody Poteet, who's shoved with the Marlins, and nobody looked at him as a big league guy. And he came out increasing his velocity this year by 3 or 4 miles per hour and looked amazing. And because they had nobody else, he gets the call and he's doing great. And so obviously the Marlins want Sanchez and Cabrera and Guzman and all these guys to be healthy, but this has created an opportunity. And Cody Poteet's one of the really great stories of the season because he was not supposed to be in the major leagues. And here he is starting, and he just threw 7 innings, just spectacular against the Mets the other day. So Sanchez on his way back, but it's really cool to see guys also make the most of their chances in the majors as well.
Yeah, it's cool to see guys take an opportunity and run with it, and that sounds like what Cody Poteet has been able to do with Miami. The Durham Bulls come into town. This is the AAA affiliate of the Tampa Bay Rays. Many project them as the best farm system in baseball. They've certainly got Wander Franco. I see Vidal Brujan is really playing well as well. What do you say about this AAA team from Durham?
They're good. They're really good. They've got more home runs than anybody in the league, and it's really not even close. Again, I mentioned Jacksonville's power prowess. offensively, and they've hit 24 home runs. And Durham passed that at least a couple weeks ago. They've got 35, and that's the most in minor league baseball. So again, Jacksonville's in the top 5 or 6 in the league in home runs, and they're nowhere near and Durham at the top. So this team is, you mentioned Brujan and Franco. Those guys are fantastic. Franco hit a grand slam against Jacksonville when they were in Durham a few weeks ago. But Josh Lowe is a really interesting player, off to a really good start. Dalton Kelly. They've got a bunch of guys that, up and down 1 through 9 in the order, they are really going to grind you offensively. And so, I kind of look at that Durham team, and it's a difficult matchup. It's a good test for this Jacksonville pitching staff that's in a little bit of flux right now because of the call-ups, to be able to say, how can we do this when there's a lineup in which there are no breaks at all? And then pitching-wise, it's going to be interesting anytime you face a Rays organization affiliate, because they've got guys who they're going to use as openers. They're going to match up people. They do have some really talented starters they're going to throw in this series, like Joe Ryan and Drew Strotman. Ryan's kind of gotten off to a shaky start, but Strotman's been really good for them. So, I mean, this is it's the Rays. They're going to be really good 1 through 40 on their 40-man, and obviously that includes AAA, and the guys who are not on the 40-man on this team are good. And so it's a great test, I think, for Jacksonville. We talked about that on our broadcast when they were in North Carolina a couple weeks ago, and it's going to be really cool to see it again this week here at 121 Financial Ballpark.
Wander Franco is a guy that many look at and say the ceiling for him is just tremendous. Do you see that?
Absolutely. And I think it's easy. We're not scouts, so you kind of have a read on what people are saying about guys. But there are some guys where, they're highly billed, and you're kind of like, well, I don't know. I guess I see it. But with him, it's very easy. I mean, switch hitter, hits for power, up the middle player, has got pretty good speed on the bases, excellent defender. He's also only 20 years old, and he's in AAA, and he's holding his own. So, yeah, I absolutely see him being a very, very good player at the next level. And I think when the Rays traded Willy Adames this last week, people were saying, okay, this is Wander's time. But I actually think it's smart for them to keep him in AAA for now. And it's not because of the Super 2 deadline or anything else upcoming. It's more because he's still just 20. He hasn't had any time outside of this season, so 20 games or less than 20 games at the upper levels of the minor league. So this is good experience for him. And they've got a guy in Walls who they just called up, who is really, really good. Is a little bit of an older player who has earned that chance. And so I think that Franco is going to be really good. He's already really good, because you just never see 20-year-old people at this level, and let alone doing what he's doing. And, I think his time is coming, and I think the Rays are smart to just make sure that he's made the adjustments at the upper levels of the minors, because it is a pretty unique adjustment for guys, especially somebody like him who doesn't have time at all outside of this year in AA or AAA.
Well, and the Rays are making the best of both worlds, man. They've won 11 in a row at the big league level, and they've got tremendous talent at the minor league level as well. Vidal Brujan has really burst onto the scene. That speed that he has, also showing some power too.
Yeah. Again, like these guys are fantastic, right? The Rays are the defending American League champions, and they've got still so much to come in terms of the talent on the way. And I don't think people realize, Brujan, I think, is under the radar. But again, another guy who is very, very young. He's a switch hitter, and he's had a much better season, if you want to go by raw numbers wise, than Franco has to this point. And, still just 23 years old, and a guy that they're kind of experimenting, playing with all over the place. But I think that's what's really smart, is that Franco is playing not just shortstop, but second base and third base. And Brujan has seen time in the outfield. And these are certainly two players. I almost think that Brujan is going to have a bigger impact than Franco this year, just simply because he's older and he's a little bit more advanced. But the fact that he could play in the outfield for Tampa Bay, again, I think it's only a matter of time. His OPS is over 1,000. He's also stolen 7 bases in 8 attempts. In many, many ways, he's overlooked, and he's been better than Franco this year, right now. Is it going to be better than him in the future? We'll see. Most people probably feel that Franco is going to be a superstar and Brujan will be a really, really good player. But either way, yeah, he is spectacular, and he's the toughest out to get in this lineup right now. He's tied with Sanchez in home runs with 7, and he's also adding that speed element to the game and the defensive versatility. And so, yeah, these guys are just so good. And one of those guys that Jacksonville fans should really kind of be aware of when they come. It's not just Franco, it's Brujan as well, who's kind of a headliner in this lineup.
Scott, you've got a homestand coming up that starts tonight. Tell people more about it. What kind of promotions do you have coming up?
Yes, we do. 6 games beginning tonight. So today is National Brown Bag Day, apparently, and we are celebrating by having mystery beers in brown bags for fans of age that are $2. So that'll be, I don't know how people know that is today, but we're celebrating that here. Obviously the fireworks nights are big, Friday and Saturday. Saturday is our LED lantern giveaway and our start of hurricane season, so hurricane awareness night. And then Thursday, in a lot of ways is the most important day. It's military appreciation night. So all active military members, veterans, all retired military, and their dependents receive a free ticket here at the box office to come to the game. So, we are close to a sellout. So hopefully we'll still be able to provide for them with the limited capacity we're at for this series before we go full. But it's definitely a small way we could try to tip our caps to those who have sacrificed so much. And it's also, in a less serious way, it's Thirsty Thursday. That's a really, really popular day presented by Budweiser. So $2 and $3 beer specials. So yeah, it's going to be a really fun homestand. It's great to be back. It feels like we've been on the road forever, but nice to be back for the players in their own beds in Jacksonville. And, we couldn't ask for a better matchup. I mean, Durham, again, we've talked about it, Andrew. Great team. Obviously, they're the Durham Bulls. They're synonymous, their brand, with minor league baseball because of the movie Bull Durham. And, the fact that now we are 1 series away, this is our last series with limited capacity. It's going to be really cool. I think that there's going to be a little bit extra energy simply because the fans know what is coming. So, we're looking forward to the June 8th series, but certainly this is a really good one from a baseball perspective. And first place will be on the line probably at some point between these 2 teams in Nashville in these 6 games. And again, a long way to go, but 2 really talented teams on the field.
Yeah, it's exciting in so many ways. And you mentioned it. Full capacity is returning June 8th. Boy, that's a welcome sight, isn't it?
Absolutely. We've missed everybody, so it's been great having fans safely in the building. And I think because everybody has been so respectful and of the rules, and obviously these are things that change every day, the CDC guidelines, all the different stuff that's coming out from scientists and doctors and obviously health officials and whatnot. We knew that things were going to change, and we hoped that it would expand the ballpark. We probably didn't think it was going to be this early. So the fact that it's going to happen on June 8th, the beginning of our next homestand after this one, is really spectacular. And we are looking forward to seeing, even more fans here, kind of like normal times and normalcy again, which we all obviously crave.
Very much looking forward to it, Scott. The first place Jacksonville Jumbo Shrimp welcome in the Durham Bulls tonight. Their first pitch at 7:05 at 1-1 Financial Ballpark. A 6-game homestand upcoming. And then June 8th begins full capacity. They return to normalcy. That's something that we're all looking forward to. Scott Kornberg of the Jacksonville Jumbo Shrimp, thanks for your time, and best of luck. We'll look forward to talking to you again soon, Scott.
Yes, Andrew, whenever you'd like. Thank you for having me on.